Tonight, bracing for Sandy. The sprawling hurricane is poised to strike the mid-Atlantic states within hours, and David Bernard is tracking this superstorm. Our team of correspondents has the latest on evacuations, travel shutdowns, and emergency preparedness at every level.
This is a serious and big storm.
Campaign 2012 moves inland to the swing state of Ohio. Jan Crawford and Dean Reynolds report from the Buckeye battleground. And back on track. Jim Axelrod shows us a runner on a mission to turn the lives of the homeless around, step by step.
This is the CBS Evening News.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jeff Glor. Hurricane Sandy is roughly 400 miles off North Carolina tonight, threatening up to 60 million on the East Coast. Here is the latest. 65 people across the Caribbean are dead. Airlines have canceled more than 6,000 flights. Amtrak has canceled all trains along the Northeast Corridor Monday. Hundreds of thousands are evacuating coastal areas. 10 states have declared a state of emergency. We have a team of correspondents tracking the storm tonight, and we begin with our hurricane consultant David Bernard at WFOR in Miami. David, parts of the coast already seeing the effects of Sandy. What happens over the next 24 hours?
Jeff, it's a big storm, and when we take a look at the clouds and the radar together, they've been getting hammered in eastern North Carolina and Virginia this afternoon with big rain bands stuck along the coast, causing plenty of flooding, and that's just the beginning of the rain and just the beginning of the wind. Tonight, the tropical storm force winds are along the Delmarva coastline, and by tomorrow morning, they'll be spreading along the entire northeastern coast with the hurricane gusts just offshore. Those will begin moving on shore late tomorrow and tomorrow night. That's when the worst of the winds will begin. Here are the wave heights. Look at these huge waves up to 40 feet east and south of the main center, and that's why we're so concerned about the storm surge. Again, wave heights will continue to build, and rainfall, we could see up to 10 inches in parts of the Delmarva, and that's not all. We're talking about snowfall further west into the mountains. Portions of West Virginia may see over 2 feet of snow. So Sandy has a lot to offer, and none of it really looks that good.
David Bernard, thank you. Communities along some 800 miles of the East Coast are preparing to face the power of Hurricane Sandy tonight, and we begin our series of reports with Chip Reed, who's in Ocean City, Maryland. Chip?
Well, good evening, Jeff. Today, the mayor of Ocean City ordered an evacuation of the southern portion of this island, and most people there are listening, loading up and heading out.
The center of Hurricane Sandy is still far out at sea, but her awesome power is already being felt here on this fragile barrier island on the Maryland coast. Thousands of vacationers and residents are fleeing.
We're heading home. We're heading away from the hurricane.
Mayor Rick Meehan says last year Ocean City got lucky for the most part, dodging Hurricane Irene.
Do you expect that this time around?
No, I don't. I think we're probably already further along in this storm than we were with Irene. The ocean's angry right now, and we're going to see a storm surge.
A surge that could raise sea level up to 8 feet above normal, enough to flood much of this city. Police are urging but not forcing people in the evacuation zone to leave. Most here are heeding their advice. The boardwalk is all but abandoned. But some, like Brian Dean, have decided to stay.
Got everything pretty well situated, bunker down, generators ready to rock, and hang out, ride it out. Rode out Irene last year, it wasn't that bad.
But the experts say this storm could be much worse than Irene here in Maryland and farther up the coast, including in New Jersey. And that's where Elaine Quijano is. Elaine?
Well, Chip, we're in the town of Bay Head, New Jersey, which is especially vulnerable. It sits just 10 feet above sea level, and like other coastal communities, residents here have been ordered to evacuate.
No, ma'am, you have to go home. It's a state of emergency.
The race is on along the Jersey shore to leave ahead of Hurricane Sandy.
I got it.
Ted Smith evacuated his 81-year-old mother, Althea, from their house in Bay Head. He's worried about the water pushing through their beachfront home.
The ocean will definitely come up this far. I mean, if we look at the ocean right now, I mean, it's coming up pretty high.
Throughout the region, people from coastal towns are jamming highways and roads to escape the storm. Forecasters predict as winds push water on shore, a storm surge could cause water levels to rise 6 to 11 feet all the way up the eastern seaboard into Connecticut and Rhode Island. The greatest concern, that the peak surge will coincide with high tide. The storm is expected to cause widespread outages, and power crews are being positioned inland, ready to respond.
They got us on 16-hour shifts, starting this morning at 7 o'clock. We'll wait and see what happens.
The storm threat is also shutting down the casinos in Atlantic City. New Jersey Governor Chris Christie is urging people to take the storm seriously.
It's going to make landfall in New Jersey. That's clear. Where in New Jersey, we're not quite yet clear. What that means for us is that of the states that are going to be impacted by this storm, we appear, at least at the moment, to be taking the brunt of it.
Now, because of the storm, the New Jersey National Guard has been placed on standby, ready to deploy personnel and equipment, including high water vehicles and search and rescue teams. Now to my colleague, Jim Axelrod, who is monitoring the storm in New York City. Jim.
Well, Elaine, New York City's transit system will be shut down later tonight. The city's schools already closed for tomorrow. As New York's governor put it, this is a matter of being prudent, not panicked. They took sand from anywhere they could find it in lower Manhattan this afternoon, even the neighborhood sandbox.
There was a mandatory evacuation for this zone.
The only thing that stopped the sandbagging was the order to leave. 375,000 people were ordered out of the lowest lying areas of New York City by Mayor Michael Bloomberg.
Let me stress, if you don't evacuate, you're just putting your own life in. You're not just putting your own life in danger. You are also endangering the lives of our first responders who may have to come in and rescue you.
The worst case scenario could see an 11-foot surge in New York Harbor, which carries the threat of unprecedented flooding in underground electrical and subway stations. It's not an omen, is it, for what you're getting into? Among the last to go was Seth Greengrass. He's getting married tonight and had to squeeze in pictures first. His honeymoon's already a mess. His wedding night hotel's been evacuated.
It's going to probably make me miss my honeymoon flight tomorrow. I'm supposed to fly to Tanzania tomorrow at 5:30. And while it hasn't officially been canceled yet, it doesn't look like that's likely to happen.
But you still got a smile on your face.
Well, I'm trying to hide it.
The fallout from Hurricane Irene last year lingers here as well. Remember, Irene was forecast to smack New York City in the teeth. It didn't. And we run into people unconvinced it'll be any different this time. But every public safety official is saying the same thing. This is not Irene. Jeff?
Jim Axelrod, thank you, Jim. The weather threat is also blowing the presidential campaign plans off course. With 9 days until the election, both candidates adjusted schedules, both canceling events in Virginia to focus on other swing states. Jan Crawford reports.
In Washington, the president was briefed by FEMA officials working to coordinate the government's response to the storm.
This is a serious and big storm.
Sandy has turned campaign schedules upside down, especially as Senator Mark Warner said in his home state of Virginia.
The storm will throw a little bit of havoc into the race. I was supposed to be with the president and President Clinton on Monday. That rally has been canceled.
The latest polls show Virginia now a dead heat and an important state for Romney if he's to win on November 6th. He canceled 3 campaign events today in the state and instead spent the day in Ohio with running mate Paul Ryan.
Today, when we get home, put in our prayers the people who are in the East Coast in the wake of this big storm that's coming.
Ohio is another must-win state. A new poll by a group of Ohio newspapers has the race tied 49 to 49%.
I know they're chanting 4 more years, but we're chanting all over this country 9 more days.
Today on CNN, senior Obama advisor David Axelrod was asked how the storm might impact the race.
The best thing we can do is focus on how we can help people during this storm and hope that it all clears out and that by the next weekend we'll be free of it and people can focus on the election.
Now Romney heads to the swing state of Iowa tomorrow. He got a boost today with the endorsement of the Des Moines Register. That paper had not endorsed a Republican presidential candidate since Richard Nixon 40 years ago. Jeff had said that the president had failed to fix the struggling economy, and there was no sign that would change with the second term.
Jan Crawford, thank you. Ohio has been visited by the candidates more than any other state, and with good reason. Winning the election will almost surely include winning Ohio. Dean Reynolds is also there tonight.
The Chevy plant in Lordstown, Ohio is humming these days, with workers toiling 3 shifts a day where they once worried it might close. Many Democrats credit the auto industry's rebound to the bailout engineered by the president.
If Mitt Romney had been president when the auto industry was on the verge of collapse, we might not have an American auto industry today.
Chicago Mayor and former Obama Chief of Staff Rahm Emanuel spoke today on Face the Nation.
Because of the president's decision against conventional wisdom out of Washington and New York, those auto jobs are being added, and America's now adding auto jobs.
That may account for why the president is running better among men here in Ohio, trailing Mitt Romney by 6 points. Nationally, he's lagging by 13. Republicans argue, though, that Ohio's economy would be even better with a Republican in the White House. John Kasich is the governor.
If Romney wins, I believe we're going to see a significantly improved economy. That's why I'm for him.
More than 800,000 people have voted early in Ohio so far, allowing both parties to separate those who cast ballots from those who may need a bit more coaxing. The ones now getting analyzed with microscopic intensity. Bob Bennett is chairman of Ohio's Republican Party.
I think that if most people knew the type of information that we had in our database, that they would be shocked and probably not too happy with it.
And it does seem a bit intrusive as both campaigns draw conclusions about whom to pursue based on things like what churches they attend, what cars they drive, and Jeff, even what magazines they read.
Dean Reynolds, thank you. Later, a running club that offers a new path to the homeless. Floods in Venice, leaving tourists with that sinking feeling. And the big impact of a Senate race in Big Sky Country, Montana. Those stories when the CBS Evening News continues. The battle for control of the U.S. Senate is the second biggest contest on Election Day. Right now, Democrats have a 53-47 majority. Republicans need to pick up 4 seats to win control. As Barry Peterson tells us, one of the most vulnerable Democratic seats is in Montana, where John Tester, a working farmer, is seeking a second term.
Is this the farm that actually went back to your grandfather, this one? Yes.
John Tester is up at dawn, working the farm his family homesteaded in 1912. When he's not attending to his U.S. Senate duties, he is here harvesting wheat. And a man who favors a $9 buzz cut knows a thing or two about close shaves.
You win elections with shoe leather.
He won a seat for the Democrats in 2006 by the slimmest margin of any Senate race that year.
People are flat sick of the gridlock. Washington, D.C. is like a boat anchor on this economy right now because we're not working together, we're not getting things done.
Thank you for your service.
Now, his fight to keep that seat could make the difference between a Senate held by the Democrats or shifted to Republican control.
The government doesn't create jobs. Small businesses do. People do.
Republican Danny Rehberg has been Montana's lone congressman for 12 years.
Hello, again.
He aligns himself with conservatives who want to shrink the size of government.
Balance our budget, tighten our belts like the American public has to.
Tester may have wanted this race to be about issues in Montana, but his opponent has turned it into a referendum on President Obama. One of Rehberg's ads makes Tester out as an Obama twin.
Having trouble telling us apart? Check out John Tester and Barack Obama.
Voting with the president 93% of the time.
It's not factual. That's really the bottom line. The bottom line is I don't agree with my wife 93% of the time.
I've got to use 10 pens.
The $800 billion economic stimulus passed early in Obama's term is a big issue. Rehberg calls it government waste. Tester points to a Montana highway project paid for by stimulus money that Rehberg cut the ribbon to open. And there is a hard-fought battle over Obamacare, which Tester supports.
As it's implemented and people see the advantages, see more competition in the marketplace, see the healthcare costs starting to flatten out already, I think they'll accept it.
Rehberg says real reform requires limiting lawsuits against doctors.
If you don't address defensive medicine, you're not serious about controlling the cost of health care.
Montanans call their state Big Sky Country, where cows graze peacefully. But this year, the state is anything but peaceful, because the road to the Senate majority may run through it. Barry Peterson, CBS News, Great Falls, Montana.
Next on tonight's CBS Evening News, success for SpaceX as the Dragon capsule completes its mission. The ceasefire in Syria seems to be in name only. Government warplanes bombed suburbs east of Damascus today as rebel fighters attacked troops elsewhere in the capital. Activists say more than 270 people have been killed since the temporary four-day truce took effect on Friday. Christian worshipers have been attacked again in Nigeria. It happened in the country's predominantly Muslim north. At least 7 were killed when a suicide bomber plowed an SUV loaded with explosives into a Catholic church. More than 100 others were hurt. In Venice, heavy rain and higher than normal tides left the city's streets and plazas under 4 feet of water today. Tourists spent the day sightseeing and wading through waterlogged St. Mark's Square. Mission accomplished for SpaceX. The company's unmanned Dragon spacecraft undocked from the International Space Station this morning and splashed down off the California coast. It is the first ever commercial trip to resupply the orbiting station since NASA's shuttles were retired. Ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News, helping the homeless get a running start on a new life. A record turnout today for the 37th Marine Corps Marathon in Washington, D.C. Nearly 30,000 runners representing every branch of the military braved cool weather to start that race. And the power of running is also getting another group of Americans back on their feet. Here again is Jim Axelrod.
You might say Ann Malum's been running from her problems for years.
It tore my family apart and it caused hardship and heartache and struggles and tears.
Only that wouldn't do justice to her powerful journey. Malum's father was an alcoholic with a gambling problem. The best prescription for her pain, she found, was to run. Every morning she'd pass a homeless shelter where the men would cheer her on.
Soon I realized that I was absolutely cheating them, that here I get to be the runner and they get to be the homeless guys on the corner. Why can't we all be the runners?
Hoping to build their self-esteem, Malum started a running club for them.
I kind of felt in a weird way that I could help my dad in a way that I never could back then by helping these guys.
6 years later, she's the CEO of Back on My Feet, a nonprofit with branches in 9 cities helping the homeless restart their lives. She just opened one at the Bowery Mission in New York City. One rule: no slackers.
You have to sign this piece of paper that says you're going to show up 3 days a week, you're going to be on time, you're going to come with a positive attitude, and you are going to support your teammates.
Kevin Cox has signed on. Homeless for 9 months, he is now discovering the wide range of benefits found in lacing up a pair of running shoes.
It helps you to come out of your shell, to branch out, and it's a good way to get in shape.
This is good.
The program buys shoes and gear for the people who sign up. If they keep at it, the homeless runners get $2,500 to help with housing, education, and employment.
It gives me a great sense of pride to know that I'm actually doing something positive with my life.
So far, 2,400 homeless have become runners. 602 have found jobs, 401 housing, 537 have enrolled in education or job training.
Because of my dad, because of his struggles, it's the only reason I ever even gave a damn about those guys on that corner. And I thought, this is what I'm supposed to do with my life.
Next year, Malum's mission will spread to Austin, Texas, and the West Coast. Jim Axelrod, CBS News, New York.
Updating our top story now, the federal government is closing its offices in Washington, D.C. tomorrow because of Hurricane Sandy, which is turning slowly northward 400 miles off North Carolina tonight. It's expected to turn west toward the mid-Atlantic states late tomorrow. More than 6,000 flights have been canceled so far. Amtrak service is being canceled along the Northeast Corridor tomorrow. Hundreds of thousands have been ordered to evacuate. 10 states have declared a state of emergency. That is the CBS Evening News tonight. Full coverage of the storm first thing tomorrow on CBS This Morning and on the CBS Evening News with Scott Pelley tomorrow. I'm Jeff Glor, CBS News in New York. Good night.